What's going on, pre-Chiro students? This is Dr. Ben Glass with another episode, just having conversations with people who have dedicated themselves to the chiropractic profession and are going to give you insights and help you better understand the context for what it's like to become a chiropractor. Today we have Bill Esteb on with us, who I've been following for quite a while. Has published many books on chiropractic. And Bill, can you just introduce yourself and share how you discovered chiropractic and what attracted you to really involve yourself in this profession?
Yeah. Well, I come from a advertising agency, radio, broadcast, media background, and I was working for a film production company back in the early 80s. And we had two chiropractors come to us. They wanted to harness the power of the newfangled VCR to use for patient education. So they hired our company to create the world's first patient education video. And so we did that back in 1981. And I began chiropractic care as a research project to create that video, and went on to do other videos, and found a real niche within the profession for some of my other skill sets of writing and brochures and posters and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And your company is called Patient Media. Can you describe the trajectory of Patient Media's sort of development and where it's at today, what your offerings are to chiropractic students to
Sure.
learn more on how to work with people and also just to better understand chiropractic?
Yeah, well, what I discovered early on was that there was a real disconnect between the doctor's point of view and the patient's point of view. And so, what we've tried to do is to create the media resources that a chiropractor can use to help leverage their limited time and energy to be able to explain chiropractic principles to patients in a way that's meaningful and significant. And so, that means a brief copy. It means high impact graphics in video and wall posters and charts, and just basically the resources that a doctor can use to explain chiropractic to a patient who's been steeped in the medical model their entire life.
Mm-hmm. Can we deconstruct that medical model, the medical model way of thinking versus the chiropractic way of thinking, and how you really help chiropractors reach patients from where they're at?
Well, obviously, our patient education materials only work if they reflect the doctor's worldview. And so, all too many chiropractors emerge from largely a medical training in chiropractic college, I'm afraid to say, with a medical mindset as well. And it's kind of a catch and release model where the model that I embrace in chiropractic from the very beginning was that it was more of a lifestyle than a diet of pain relief. So, our tools are designed to encourage what I would call a chiropractic lifestyle, that it's not just for back pain or an episode of headache, but it's a way of taking care of your body for the long haul and to maximize your ability to live life to the full. And at least that's how I've used chiropractic over the last 40 years with 9 different chiropractors during that time.
Mm-hmm. And what is your current focus on right now? What types of projects are you working on? What's most relevant to chiropractors today, and what can students do potentially to get connected with what you're up to?
Yeah, well, certainly I blog every week about some aspect of the doctor-patient relationship from a patient's point of view. I would say that probably the biggest issue these days is the importance of digital marketing, and that means websites and social media and reviews and all the rest of it, email marketing. And so a lot of our energies these days are put in through our sister company, which is called Perfect Patients. And over the course of the last, I don't know, 15 years, we look after the websites of about, I don't know, 2,000 or so chiropractors around the world to help them communicate digitally with prospective new patients. So that's probably the key ingredient these days. There's still there's still a need for paper products, even in a digital world. With all the promise of the paperless office, we're cutting down more trees than ever before. And so in that regard, we concentrate mostly on tools that help a doctor in their report of findings with patients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I actually use your report of findings form to help contextualize a care plan for people.
Good.
Yeah, can you just share some of the elements that show up on those websites that you're managing for chiropractors and some of the core messaging? I know you said it takes the chiropractor to be in alignment with the messaging that your company is providing, but what are some of the flavors of chiropractic practice that you're representing? And can you just speak to some of the successes that chiropractors are having these days with those?
Well, our job in the website business is to most accurately reflect the doctor. So we don't superimpose our worldview onto a chiropractor. In fact, I think one of the innovations that we've brought to the marketplace is that the content that we write on behalf of the doctor comes after a 45-minute interview. So it's really about capturing the essence of that particular practitioner, and we assert that that the real objective is to show up authentic and transparent, and someone who is saying, "I like you," and because it's salesmanship in some ways, and so oftentimes we take over a website that was made by a chiropractor who found it difficult to write about themselves and to make themselves the hero. So I think probably the real heavy lifting that we do on behalf of a chiropractor is to make sure that we get them out of the way and create something that really connects emotionally with a prospective new patient who's really looking for two things, trust and hope. And so being able to communicate those two key values, I think, is really essential.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak about the creative processes that you went through in exploring chiropractic when you were doing research on how to most effectively create materials that chiropractors can utilize? Because I think that as a chiropractic student or even a pre-chiro student, it's really important that you begin to develop your own content and develop your own way of communicating. Can you speak somewhat to the creative process that you have and how you go about putting material together?
It's actually pretty simple. Every tool we've ever created over the course of the last 21 years solves a problem. It's not to the products that have failed, to be honest, are those that we invent. Oh, this would be cool, and we go do that, and we hold it up to the profession, and people turn their nose up at it. Instead, the most successful tools we've created are those which go out after to solve a particular communication problem. So I wouldn't say there's a lot of creative, mystical effort that goes into it. It's about problem solving. And there are specific instances in the doctor-patient relationship when there is a problem to be solved, whether it be introducing the fact that chiropractic is different than medicine, or whether it's about explaining the likelihood of a relapse if you discontinue your care as soon as you feel better. I mean, there's a lot of issues that go into designing it, but it all goes back to what problem are we trying to solve? And when we do that, whether it be a video or whether it be a wall chart, it seems to connect and serve the marketplace best that way.
Mm-hmm. Just in an effort to really drill down into that problem solution construct, are there a certain number of angles that you try and approach the problem from when crafting the solution?
I think there is a common theme through all the materials we've created. That theme is the patient's point of view. That is, I think what happens is after about a semester at chiropractic college, most new chiropractors lose touch with what it's like to have beginner's mind. And so I think that's one of the things that we've been really attuned to is how do you appreciate the frame of mind? How do you enter the conversation going on in the patient's mind so that you can connect with them? And I think that's probably the secret sauce, if there is one.
Hmm. Have you seen or worked with any chiropractic students that you really like how they're approaching their path, and you really have been able to identify or tease apart some of the common threads of what makes a successful chiropractic student or budding chiropractor?
Well, I have over the years. I've spoken, I think, at 21 different chiropractic colleges on the planet. I mean, all around the world, and so I get a chance to speak with a lot of chiropractors who aren't chiropractors yet, but who intend to. And I've noticed a couple of common denominators among those who have a fast start when it comes to practice, and probably the overarching issue is that a chiropractic practice, there aren't too many different business models other than private practice in chiropractic. I mean, if you were a medical doctor, I suppose you could be everything from a school nurse to a clinic to an emergency. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but chiropractic is pretty much private practice. And that means that what you're actually creating is a small business. And I think many, many people overlook the fact that it's a small business. We call them patients, but they're customers. And that's not to diminish the relationship, but some of the same issues that relate to customers relate to patients as well. So the struggling chiropractors I meet are those who resent the fact that it's a small business. They hate the marketing, they hate the hiring and firing and training and all the rest of it. But if you want to get up to something, if you want to do something, you're going to need to enlist the help of others, and that means that you have a leadership role to play, not just with patients, but also with those that you hire. But I always recommend that if you're really, really serious about making a ruckus and taking names, that you make sure that you read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth Revisited, because that really hones in on the issues facing a small business person.
Mm-hmm. I think in Michael Gerber's book, he differentiates the roles that you have to play between being the technician versus being the leader or the manager. How do you lead your team? Just to get some insights, I obviously can only speak from experience, and I don't believe you are in practice. You're the developer and creator of patient media and Perfect Patients. What do you do to create systems or procedures? Just because I think it's valuable for any prospective students or even chiropractic students to see what it's like if you are drawing these parallels towards being a business owner, not just somebody who's providing care.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not a chiropractor. I considered becoming one back in, I think, 1992, but I was told that I might be able to have greater influence on the planet if I stayed outside, kept one foot in the real world and one foot in chiropractic. But one of the things that we've taken to heart in the businesses that I'm involved with is that systems run the business, people run the systems. So virtually everything is systematized so that it's not dependent upon a personality, it's not dependent upon a special skill set of someone, but this is the system that's used to do this, that, or what have you. And that goes from marketing to staff training to onboarding a new employee. All of those things are systems. And so when there's a failure, we don't blame the person, we blame the system, and we fix the system so that it doesn't happen again. And I think that has served us very, very well. And I think it's a model that would serve any small business.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak about some of the most recent books you've written and what the topics of those books are and why you wrote them?
Well, all 12 of my books feature short essays of about 1,200 to 1,500 words. You can read them in about 5 minutes, which is about my attention span, frankly. But what started it all was 20 years ago, I got invited actually 20, 30 years ago, I got invited to contribute to a newsletter that was sent out to chiropractors. And I was asked by the editor of that newsletter if I would write a small essay from the patient's point of view. I said, well, how many words would you like? He said, well, about 1,200 words would be nice. So I started the discipline of writing these little 1,200 word essays on different aspects of chiropractic. I'd be at a seminar, someone would ask me a question. I thought, well, that's an interesting thing. And so I'd get on the airplane coming home and I'd write 1,200 words on that particular aspect from a patient's point of view. And I've written hundreds of those little essays over the years, and just simply collected about 50 of them into these book forms. And so it covers everything, basically from a patient's point of view, but the many facets of that relationship, because the doctor-patient relationship is a very special type of relationship. There's issues of power and influence. There's issues of compassion and hope and trust, and procedure and perception. I mean, communication. I mean, it's really versatile and many facets. And that is why I've been able to pretty much cover hundreds of different topics over the years.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a testament to how dynamic practice can be for a chiropractor that you've been able to write 12 books on all the different types of experiences that can go on between a chiropractor and the person they're working with, or a chiropractor and the way that they run and operate their office. Where do we go from here? What's your future look like? What are you intending on doing with your company as we move forward?
Well, the company pretty much runs itself now after all these years. We've got a great team that takes care of those issues. It's really freed me up to do some of the other projects that I've had on my plate for years. One, in fact, I'm working on at the moment is I've always wanted a book that would go after and be tailored to the needs of the lay public. And so I'm in the process of outlining a book that does that. That obviously has a strong chiropractic focus, but that's not the big idea. It's a broader book than that, but it's a way of kind of saying, oh, by the way, you want to make sure that you're under chiropractic care too. So I think that's probably the thing that is front and center for me at the moment.
Okay. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing with any prospective students. If you could reflect on everything that you have created, is there anything that sticks out in your head that's particularly relevant, more so to a prospective chiropractic student, somebody who's in undergrad and is just beginning to explore chiropractic?
I would say that start thinking about, realize that right now in school, this is merely an obstacle course. It's to test how seriously you want to do this thing called chiropractic. Most of the things you learn in chiropractic college will not be used in daily practice. And so in many ways, it is an obstacle course. It's what we put you through before we entrust the freedom and the responsibility that you'll have when you see patients in your practice. And so I would be always looking with the end in mind. I would be less focused about grades and be thinking about what am I going to do when I get out of practice. Get that website domain name purchased now if you haven't already. Begin laying the groundwork for practice. This waiting to the last minute, well, I don't want to do anything until I get my license. Well, it's too late. You're going to lose the momentum. So you want to start early. Start thinking about dreaming what that ideal practice looks like, feels like, smells like, sounds like, and begin the process of making that vision come true by thinking about it way in advance.
Mm-hmm. Last question. If we were to really challenge a prospective student with something that would take them out of their comfort zone in regards to maybe creating something new for themselves or doing a project, a capstone project for their undergraduate academic program, is there anything that you could propose that they do that would be related to chiropractic?
Oh, that's easy. Public speaking. Get involved in a Toastmasters group, develop a lay lecture for patients, get out in front of people and share your ideas. Now, even if you don't want to do lay lectures, even if you have no interest in doing public speaking, the ability to put ideas together on your feet, in front of people, will serve you in many, many ways. And when I began public speaking in 1986, it literally improved every aspect of my life. And so I would strongly recommend that those sorts of self-development issues is really where the action is.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.